Happy Friday, everyone. Tom Grisafi, Ag Bull Media, Ag Bull Trading. The government's open. The USDA, I don't know what they released, a bomb of sorts. And we got just the guy to break it all down. Hope you have a little time to spend with us. Let's bring him in the show with a proper introduction. Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer, coming to us live from Washington, D.C. You traveled a little bit this week, my friend.
I traveled a lot. Charlotte, North Carolina for a real good Fertilizer Institute meeting, and then almost a 5-hour delay getting back. And then I had to fly to St. Louis and then drive down to Columbia, Missouri for the Missouri Governors Conference, which I always like to do because little secret, they have the best food buffet of any meeting I go to. They have steak, they have chicken, they have turkey, lamb, pork. I mean, you name it, and I had it all.
Let's bring that microphone a little closer to your beautiful lips. Oh, make love
there
to that
we
microphone,
go.
Mr. Wiesemeyer. There you go. All right, like a famous disc jockey that you are, let's start spinning records. And where do you suggest we start?
I would suggest that we start with the USDA crop production report. Yeah, there we go. The farm media tried to kill that corn crop, but they didn't succeed.
What do you say that? Is that sarcasm?
Yeah, it's down what? It's only 62 million bushels, I think, in corn, and soybeans wasn't down that much either. You saw the price reaction. I think we have the price reaction for corn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They didn't like it.
Pretty dramatic. That's a daily chart, folks, and we have some moving averages there. I believe we have the 100-day and 200-day, but big down bar today in corn. One of the bigger down days we've had in a while, Mr. Wiesemeyer.
Yeah, well, they leaned into that report on the bull side, and the old line, the bull needs to eat every day, and they didn't eat today.
Not even a little bit. No, sir. All right, let's hop right into this one. You got some yummies
Those
here.
were the highlights.
Okay.
We've got corn production. Actually, they have a larger beginning stocks from old crop last year. So production is forecast at 16.8 billion bushels. That's down just 62 million from September. Heck, we lose that going to an elevator and over the harvest season. So that's not much of a reduction. Total use is up 100 million bushels. That reflects that higher export forecast. We have record corn exports. So we don't have a trade issue with corn. We do with beef.
Great thing.
Yeah, and the bottom line is supply is rising more than use, and whenever you have carryover going up, you're not in a bull market.
Well, time will tell. We still have to get through some South American weather.
Yeah, we have a graphic showing the November corn average yield and production, but we just went through that. But let's go to the next one because I can look at the traders and analysts and general farm media as usual focused on the I states. Well, they got the reductions that they hyped up, but look at the so-called fringe states who are no longer fringe states. They more than made up for the almost more than made up for the downturn in the I states. That's my bottom line there.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Don't forget the states other than I. Yes, look at South Dakota.
South Dakota, a little creeper. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving along. Soybeans, sir.
Look at that price. We've had a pretty good rally, but now with lack of follow through China sales and that crop just went down a little bit, but it's just they hammered it again today. So
yeah, let's break out those numbers. Very specific.
There's the yield and a few states, but let's go to the next chart because that shows it by state.
Okay.
Again, we didn't see really much change from September. Remember, they didn't do in October, although they put in some information from October, but I think you have to look at the test weights and things like that from the November. But you can see the increases in some states and decreases for others. It wasn't that much of a change from the September soybean yield. So
Here's the facts on it right here.
yeah,
Here's your verbiage on it.
down only 48 million bushels. The yield was down only half a bushel an acre. And supplies are projected to be 61 million bushels lower than September, and exports were down 50 million bushels from the previous forecast. Now, this is important to point out. USDA said that was due to lower supplies and higher exports by Brazil and Argentina. In September, you'll recall Argentina temporarily reduced their export taxes. That led to an influx of export registrations, US
Oh, yeah.
said, during the peak US export season. And since the last report of WASDE, the US entered a trade deal with China, which USDA says, which led to higher US prices, but narrowed the price spread between the US and other countries in competing with other destinations other than China. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the conundrum there for soybeans. We got priced too high too soon, and when we gave that Argentina
20
that
billion?
$20 billion, they immediately sold China what, $7 billion?
Yeah, 2-3 days. Yeah, when they turned on the I want to pop my face in here. Oh, congrats on the Blue Shirt Friday. You and I, we got that memo. Yeah, remember how upset the American farmer was? They're like, holy cow, you trash our market.
Yeah.
And you go to Argentina and you give them this money. They flip off the grains on sale light. They sell it all in 3 days, like Kmart had a special. And then all of a sudden, crazy times. Hey, you brought some verbiage to back that up. You got the Brazil stuff here.
Yeah, the Brazil is going to be close to watch now because they're the formidable. They're the supermarket to the world. Where we no longer are that, by the way. USDA expects Brazil farmers will produce 175 million metric tons in their new crop, 25-26. That's up from 171.5 million tons last year. But yesterday, CONAB, which is the equivalent of USDA in Brazil, Tommy, they said their farmers would produce almost 178 million tons for the new crop year. So they're already ahead of USDA on soybeans. But look at the corn. USDA went up from 135 to 136 million tons old crop for Brazil. CONAB has taken it all the way to call it 141 million tons. Look at that, 5 million tons more than USDA. Then on new crop, USDA calls Brazil farmers, said Brazil will only produce 131 million tons, and CONAB is at almost 139 for 25-26. So I don't know why USDA is doing what they're doing. They usually get serious on Brazil until February of the new year. So it may take them a while to catch up. But that means we could have some negative news from Brazil over the next few months with their production if it's verified, Tommy. But in the case of Brazil, they used to be a seasonal competitor to us, but now they're producing so many soybeans that now they're a formidable competitor through most of our year. And that's what has the soybeans in the doldrums right now.
Yeah. Going back to the USDA, you ever see those memes where a farmer says, I think I'm going to ask the USDA to be a pallbearer because I want them to be the last to let me down?
Again, to let them down again. Yep, there's one. And they're going to go, they lived in green and they're going to die in green.
Nah,
Okay.
that just shows the passion for the American farmer that
Absolutely.
they
Absolutely.
love their green paint. Big shout
Yes.
out to John Deere out there. All right, we got daily export sales coming out. Back to the show.
Yeah, we didn't get any daily export sales while the government was shut down, 43 days. But now that they're back, USDA released all the daily sales that would have been announced. And for those people viewing this, I yellowed out certain things. China, we didn't get that many confirmed daily soybean sales to China. But yet there's a few unknown destinations in there for both corn and soybeans that could potentially translate to China later on. But look at the big corn sale to Mexico. That's the biggest one out of all the time USDA was out. It was over 1 million tons on a daily sale, Tommy. So
Hmm.
corn's still very export competitive there, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and let's go full blown conspiracy wacko theory. There was a bunch of jokers out there, and they could have been right. They weren't wrong to think it, but it didn't happen. And the conspiracy theory was that while we were closed for 45, 50 days, we were going to have the Great Grain Robbery. You're old enough to remember that. That happened in 72. I was born in 72. It actually happened in June of 72. The actual week I was born, you might have been a couple years old, but I think you've heard about it or read about it. That did not happen. By looking at this
No.
list, Mexico bought a healthy amount of corn, but there was no Great Grain Robbery. Is that correct, Mr. Wiesemeyer?
Absolutely, and I reported on it at the
Well,
time. I was here.
we're going through the show pretty quick. Tell
Yeah,
people about it
but
because it's
I'll tell you,
important to understand history, sir.
that's actually because let's connect dots here. That's why we have a daily export sales reporting
Really?
system. Oh yeah, that was Congress had hearings after the Great American Grain Robbery, and what came out of that is the export daily sales reporting system. I think it came out the following year, but that's why we started it so we could track it. So yeah, absolutely, we have a mechanism. And I think probably somebody was looking at those daily sales within USDA. So if there would have been something awry, they would have, said something.
Oh,
I think.
very, very
I can't
interesting.
confirm that, but that's
Yeah.
probably the case.
Yeah. Should we talk about the fabric of our life?
Yes, yes. Cotton, yes. Look at this. That was negative for cotton because they increased production almost 900,000 bales. And
Wow.
boy, we were low priced to begin with. I think it
Hmm.
was around 62 cents the last time I
Yeah,
checked.
about 62, 65 in D's cotton, around there. Lower 60s here for a long time.
Yeah, what did we know what it closed today?
Yeah,
I
just
didn't.
down 50, which isn't that much. I mean,
Oh,
it
that's
was up
good.
before, but would you like this chart real quick?
Yeah, that shows the acreage yield and production, and look at the big increase. It just shows the yield. You don't have to go much yield in Texas. Go to the next one by
Oh, yes,
state
sir.
because you can see Texas. That's where
Blue means more yield, correct? For
yeah, the
our
darker the
people
blue,
listening.
the more the yield increase. But if you got any blue in Texas, that's your big cotton producing state. You're going to go up in the U.S. Average total, and that's exactly what happened. See, this is why cotton, rice, and sorghum or milo really haven't seen the price acceleration that we've seen in corn and soybeans. So even though we've had the run up in soybeans, we'll get to this later on, Tommy, but
Hmm.
a lot of people think, oh, well, will there even be a trade aid program now that soybeans have increased? Absolutely, you will. But they may not get as much as before, but I'll guarantee you cotton, rice, and sorghum will because they haven't generated the price rise that the other two
You're
crops.
talking about this trade mitigation aid
Trade
program still
mitigation
coming.
aid program. Yeah,
We'll
it's
talk
coming.
about that in a little
Oh,
bit.
absolutely, we will later on because there's a reason it will not likely be announced this week.
Hmm. Should we talk about this ABA Farmer Mac survey? I understand you got a
Yeah,
bunch of clips from this.
yeah. I hate it. Came out Wednesday or Thursday this
ABA,
week.
folks, means
American Bankers
yes, sir.
Association and Farmer Mac survey. And I don't like negative news, but this shows what's the negative dynamics going on in the business of agriculture. And let's look at a few. Only 52% of producers expected to be profitable next year. That's the lowest in 5 years. Row crop margins are squeezed by oversupply, wheat exports, and high input cost. Most farmers know that, but now the world does. Many operations now are burning equity to cover annual expenses, and I hear and see that everywhere I go, Tommy. Next one.
I
Next
don't like
one.
that. I don't
No.
like that at all. Here we go.
lenders are concerned about grain and cotton growers. Their concern jumped to around 70%. That's up from just 15% 2 years ago. So the high anxiety is increasing. The pressures include flat to lower commodity prices as we go into the latter part of 2025 and into 2026. Higher interest costs are eroding those profit margins, operating margins, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
and elevated land, cash rents, and fuel expenses. I mean, those are all the reasons why. I know a farmer understands that, but this is what Congress needs to know.
This one stings a little bit today.
The livestock has been mostly the bright spot. Stronger domestic demand and firm beef and dairy prices usually have supported profitability in those sectors. We know tight cattle supplies and protein sectors are more resilient, and that's what the numbers show.
Mm.
The widespread expectation of rising credit stress, especially for leveraged grain farms. I think the biggest thing in this coming aid package will be farmers paying down debt, Tommy.
Okay.
I really do. That's what
They're not going to buy new green paint on this one.
No. You're going to see continued tempered sales in the farm equipment industry for sure. I don't even have to do any survey for that one. And then there are concerns for 2025 and going into 2026, persistent low crop prices, rising costs, high interest rates, refinancing pressure, volatile land values, uncertain cash rents, strained working capital and liquidity, and weak grain export demand other than corn. Now, I don't like to say those things, but I'll tell you, Tommy, here's my biggest concern now is that if we were to make new lows and we don't have much of a bounce into 2026, that's why you're going to have this bridge aid, not only from the trade mitigation program, but from Congress. If you start tilting the land market, you're going to have more than a few farmers sell a portion of land just to get by, and that's where you could cascade land prices more than anyone thinks right now. I saw that translate into the 1980s, and I'm not predicting it. I hope it doesn't happen, but it could.
Yeah, real quick note on interest rates. The 10-year yield, everyone keeps saying interest rates are coming down. We had a big stock market go down this week. We have things like Bitcoin traded 95,000. Big vicious moves in both gold and silver. Silver hit all-time highs and sold off. But the 10-year yield just the other day, 4.15. It has been around 4% for the last 6 months, regardless of what the Fed does. If you don't understand that, call or email us. We'll explain it to you more. But the Fed could lower the short end all they want, but the long end has a mind of its own.
Yeah, that says that there was several Federal Reserve governors or people on the Federal Open Market Committee got hawkish, as we say, signaling that they don't think we should cut interest rates in their early December meeting at the Federal Reserve, and that hit the stock market and it affected the bond market as well. That's why you had almost 800 points down yesterday. I didn't look today.
Well,
it was bad.
No, it was this morning.
Then it came back.
Then it came back. So if that's why, if you're a long-term investor, you just don't look at this stuff.
No.
Let's take a minute for station identification. If you'd like Mr. Wiesemeyer's newsletters, he is popping them out several a day. He traveled a lot this week, but boy, has he been on fire. Wiesemeyer@gmail.com, the one and only Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer. You can find him here, Wiesemeyer's Perspectives, on the Ag Bull podcast on Spotify, Apple, all the yummies, YouTube, of course. Now, with that, folks, if you go to the Ag Bull website, as fast as he's putting out stories, my brother Joe and myself, we're posting them. Now, Mr. Wiesemeyer, he's a generous man. He gives us stuff out for free. Why? I have no idea. But all the content I produce, I'm starting to lock down. If you like what Ag Bull Media is doing, subscribe there. $25 a month, $250 annually. www.agbull.com. Thank you to all the new subscribers this week. We appreciate it. We're grateful. We believe you will get your money's worth. Now, with that,
Tommy, let me give you a plug, Tommy, myself, because I'm asked all the time. Well, when I go out to give my speeches, which I do a lot, people who know me say, "Hey, why did you hook up quotes with Tommy?" And I said, he's a good trader, trader, and I like a person who knows markets, because it's a kind of a joint project between somebody who knows markets and policy and how they connect sometimes, and that's why we chose each other, actually.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The markets are moving. I have to say, I'm having fun as a trader, as a broker. Priority number one to my clients, but I like to trade. And boy, I made a few mistakes this week. I'm embarrassed to even tell you about, but wrote it down in my journal. I got to tell you, folks, when you have money into something and they give you a chance to take your profit, take it. Because when the market turns, whether it be feeder cattle or the stock market or gold or silver, when the market's just bid, and you're long something, go ahead. It's okay to pepper and get out. Because when the market turns, you can't get out, and that becomes a problem, because these algorithms and everything else, extremely powerful. You know, I'm just a little guy sitting in a basement trading against these NVIDIA computers and everything else. And the one thing I will say that I'm just loving is the amount of information that President Trump and the White House and this USDA put out is amazing. And the access to, I mean, our friend Don Wick did an interview with this guy this week. Oh my God. He was so
Stephen Vaden.
generous with his time. He spent, it's a 12-minute interview, and Don went through all his questions, and he didn't, you know, it was just, he got right to the point. That boy's got some opinions. He's not afraid to
Stephen
hold
Vaden
back.
is one of the smarter people at USDA, if not the smartest,
Mhm.
and he's very articulate, a lawyer by training. He knows Washington, D.C., and he knows the issues, and he's passionate. So if you're passionate, to me, that's number one. You have to love what you're doing, and he does.
Yeah, I Googled him. He comes from a little town in Tennessee. Um, he gets it. He gets it. I look forward to meeting him. I bet you we'll have him on this show here shortly. I know you
Oh,
know
I
him
can
real
get him
well.
on. I can get him on.
All righty. Well, now let's get to what everyone wants to talk about, cattle. Where would you like to start in cattle, sir?
Well, let's show some charts. I think we have some charts on
Let's
cattle.
show people in case they don't know what we're
First,
talking about. How the
there's our
West was
bridge.
won.
That's the how the West was won for sure. Then we have look at we we have record prices because of the shrinking cattle herd. This is 101. Look at those prices for ground beef, $6. But there's a reason for that. We have the lowest herd since 1951. And what even our president doesn't understand is the cattle cycle. It's going to take 2 years or more to build up those supplies. And when you start rebuilding, you're going to have a tighter market until we get the inventory up there, right? So I don't care whether you import more from Argentina or import more hamburger from Brazil. Let the market work and work itself out. But they don't want to do that. Anytime in my history, I don't care whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, when an administration tries to deal with the market themselves, they follow it up.
I want you to get a sip of water real quick, because you sound like you need one, and I'm going to pull up a chart. Okay, you take a little break.
There's a political one for that. You can explain it right there.
Okay, this looks like that game where you used to put your feet on the dots in Twister. This looks like Twister. And for you guys old enough to know, half the crowd's freaking laughing right now listening to this. But all right, you got red dots and you got blue dots. And the red dots, I believe, are the red states. And the blue dots happen to be the blue states. You know what I really notice here from top to bottom? I guess I never really thought about it, but look at Texas and just go all the way up to North
straight
Dakota,
up.
Straight up, yeah. But then you go to your East Coast and your West Coast. That's where they always say they're a little wild over there. And tell me about the blue dot, red dot, and how it gets cattle, Jim.
Well, that's where, like you said, from Texas, which is the biggest circle there because of the cattle there, you go straight north all the way up. And this is why politically some farm state lawmakers are nervous to what Trump has been saying, that he wants lower cattle prices, because they know where the cattlemen are and how usually cattlemen vote. And they don't like what Trump has been saying about the cattle prices, that he wants them lower. And so that's just 101. And in the Democratic states, they have some, but not nearly as many cattle, and
Well,
this shows you the gap that
I'm going back.
no, that's all right. You can do the next one.
Well, the state of New York, where the hell are you going to put a cattle in Manhattan, Jim?
Yeah, well, you
Right? You
go
got the
up to
people.
yeah, so yeah, you got that's for the restaurant industry primarily, the cattle that they do have. Although northern New York, beautiful country, by the
Oh
way.
yeah, I have some clients up
Woodstock
there
area.
actually.
Yeah,
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 up by
beautiful,
Buffalo.
beautiful country. Yes,
Dairy,
absolutely.
old dairy country that the dairy's going away, and they're just corn farmers now.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, this chart, sir.
Here's your gap as far as the beef deficit, and but they should know this because of the cattle cycle, and that's been caused by a period of years of drought, high input cost, and things like that. That your cattle inventory, again, as we keep saying, it's the lowest since 1951. That equals a bull market if you have cattle, and it
Hmm.
gets harder and harder to buy feeder cattle. Because you've got to
Yeah.
have some of that gold in order to
Hmm.
buy them. So,
I want to take a little break for we'll walk our way through and just talk about this. But the USDA did something interesting this week. They posted something on their website on Thursday, and it made cattle go limit down. Credit to Brooke Rollins and them; they're working hard. But holy smokes, when they put out that thing about screwworm in the facility on the Mexico American border, did you see the effect that had on the markets?
Absolutely, but it didn't surprise me the market reaction. You noted that I think last week we said our sources were telling us
Hmm.
that they want to possibly partially reopen the U.S. Mexico border in January, and I think the traders who had heard that and other things. They figured, oh my goodness, now this is a U.S. Fly area coming online that will add to the odds that would increase the odds that they're going to announce a partial reopening of the border, that they'll go by certain states, maybe Arizona or New Mexico first, and certain states in Mexico. I will tell you, Tommy, that
Hmm.
President Trump a few weeks ago, I've been told USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins he wanted that border opened. And I think she's probably told him, well, we want to make sure that we have action plans in place and further things that we want to do to guard against any screwworms coming into the United States. And I think that's the stage we're at. But it's
Hmm.
not a question of if, it's when, and more likely January.
Let me ask you a dumb question, and I'm being serious. I know you're going to think I'm joking, but if you are an employee, any form of employee for the federal government, ultimately, is this your boss?
Yeah, he's number one. He's your boss. Yeah.
If Donald Trump wants the border open, we're going to work on getting the border open. May not be the right thing to do, and he doesn't always do the right thing, but he
Go
does what he
go back
wants
to
to
his
do.
picture. I wished
Yeah.
I had. I've got a picture that I can give you for next week.
Okay.
Look at the top of his hair. It's a lot like the tassel corn, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
why he likes corn producers.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if he's listening. You said some folks in the White House are actually watching this video.
They do. They do. They do.
Well,
I
then we
give
better mind
sudden
our P's
hints
and
to
Q's.
them.
Hey, if you're in the White House, you're watching this video, you're more than welcome to come on the Ag Bowl podcast. We can record something anytime you want. And
Absolutely.
with that, let's just look at folks in the White House. Look what you're doing to the cattle market. Our young assistant, Lindsay, was nice enough
Mm,
to pull up some charts. Folks, these are daily charts, live cattle. Big down move. We spiked up. Jim, we had a limit up move. When I
yeah.
talk about a mistake I made this week,
Uh,
I got a butt kicking on a limit up move.
ooh,
Folks, that's called a bear market
trap.
rally. They're
A bear
vicious.
market rally.
A
Yeah.
bear
Trap.
market
A
rally.
bear trap. A
Well,
bull
this
trap. Bull trap.
yeah, bear it's we're going straight down, but the rally back up, a short covering rally is vicious. Happens in
They
the stock
picked you
market all
off.
the
They
time. Yeah.
picked you off. Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah. A fool and his money were lucky to get together in the first place. All right, that's live cattle. Here's feeder cattle. Same
Yeah.
thing, Jim. We have so
Mm,
many gaps to cover, but this is what everyone's going to be talking about. See that red line?
yeah.
That's the 100-day moving average. See the blue line, folks?
Yeah.
That's the 200-day. We traded below the 200. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to go with that. We closed real close to it. And one more chart that you might say, Tommy, Jim, why are you looking at live cattle, feeder cattle in the NASDAQ? Well, believe it or not, there's some major, major money flows. There's talk of AI changing, blowing up, people got a little frothy in this, but who did we have some volatility
Yeah.
in the stock market, my friend? Your
Yeah. So
401k was a
my
501k,
501k went back to 401k.
401 and a half right now. I'm
Although
still
we're not down that much for the week, actually.
that's an interesting way of looking at it. You know how I always tell people, Jim, if you want to learn a little bit more about trading, don't look at the price of something changed. If I remember at the Board of Trade when the Dow Jones, we had Dow Jones futures, they started at the board, whereas the Merck had the NASDAQ and the S&P. We had Dow Jones 10,000 hats. If you are walking around telling someone the Dow had a bad day, it's down 500, you need your head examined.
Yeah.
It was down 1.2%. Talk in percents.
Yes.
So when people say cattle had a horrible day, folks, they were down 3%. These are commodity markets. They're
Yeah.
allowed to move that much. Copper this year had a up 22% move in one day and a down 24% move in one day. That's a move, folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
A 1.5% move isn't as big of a deal. But the reason it matters is everyone of all ages, life savings, retirement, etc., is wrapped up. We're probably over leveraged, Jim, in the stock market. We own too much stocks. We're not diversified enough. Would you agree?
Well, most people are. I'm not. I'm diversified.
Okay, well, if you like diversification, you're going to get a chance to buy some Bitcoin here because it's on sale. That is not a recommendation. That is just a comment. But I do have something for you, Jim. A gift box of coffee is coming to your house. I'm tired of listening to you complain about it on the internet. What's going on with
On
this?
the internet, my speeches, because that's where, you'll recall our president Trump in April when he came out with his initial trade plan. If he would have stuck with the original concept of reciprocity, reciprocal, like we're going to treat you the way you treat us. That it was easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
It made logical sense. Then they started to get complex and increase tariffs on our allies, Canada and Mexico, beyond the USMCA agreement. They got into Brazil, where we had a trade surplus, and put a 50% tariff on Brazil. And they didn't differentiate. Any ag person uh, should have told Trump, if you do this, you're going to have sticky food inflation
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
we get all of our coffee imported.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Now, they did a waiver early on for orange juice, but not coffee. Why was that? I don't know. Uh,
Mm.
but
For
now
mimosa
they should,
drinkers.
I don't know whether they're out officially, but they're going to announce today, they meaning the Trump administration
Mm-hmm.
with U.S. Trade Rep Jameson Greer,
Mm.
that they're taking off the tariffs for certain commodities that the U.S. doesn't produce. Well, that should have been to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's their admission, they'll never admit it publicly, that tariffs are tax increases and
Well,
it
I want to
affects
talk
the
about that because
consumer.
I heard Chip Flory say something. He said he was saying that tariffs are a tax, it creates inflation, and then he backed
Back
off.
off.
And then the government's now like, hey, we're going to give you $2,000 because these tariffs, which Chip is saying, and credit to him, that's just to give you the money
Admission,
back for them screwing you
acknowledgement.
over. Right.
Yeah. And I don't know whether they'll get the 2000. They can't announce that
Yeah.
administratively, I don't think. That has to come through Congress. And it's a hard thing to get anything through Congress. But it is an admission
Right.
that tariffs, at least the way they worked on it after the increasing it beyond the reciprocal trade policy, absolutely it increased prices. And that's why you have sticky inflation. That's why
Mm-hmm.
you have lumber prices with the Canadian tariffs. You're going to have higher housing prices,
Mm-hmm.
coffee, the fruits, bananas. We don't produce bananas, but yet
Mm-mm.
they put those tariffs on.
Hey, I'll tell you what we do produce in America, some nuts. Have you read the
Yes,
blogs and the
yes,
comments on some of this stuff?
yes.
Oh, you should see these cattle people fighting amongst themselves. This group against that group. Real quick, I got a picture of
That's
young.
Jameson Greer, the
Yeah.
U.S. trade rep. A good guy, knowledgeable guy, very aggressive on China. He helped write the first U.S.-China Phase 1 agreement. He wrote a lot of the language in the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. He knows his stuff, but now they're having to acknowledge, as we keep saying, we've got to fine-tune trade policy we have because it's starting to hurt Americans.
Yeah.
Thank goodness they have the ability to admit a mistake, not overtly, but they're admitting it today.
I'm about to the end of the show, but I do want to go back and touch on this. On your pop-up headlines, we had governments reopen. Yes, we are. Trump
Yes.
tariff pivot. Anything you want to add to that, Mr.
Well,
Wiesemeyer?
yeah, I want to talk about the U.S. government reopening. Oh, well, the tariff. Let's
Let's
first
start at the
that.
top. U.S.
Okay,
government reopens.
43 days we were shut down. Now, most of the questions I'm getting, Tommy, is will they shut it down again? Because they only have a continuing resolution until January 30th, but not for USDA. The good
Oh,
news
yeah.
is that they approved a full fiscal year through next September
Great.
USDA funding. That means we have all the food stamp funding that they need, all the WIC money. They replenished the Commodity Credit Corporation funding back to its $30 billion borrowing authority. So we won't have to worry about another shutdown if and when it happens. I don't think it will. But if it were to happen, USDA will still operate. Okay. That's a good thing.
That's
Now,
wonderful.
what will happen to most of the agencies? I think they only had 3 appropriation bills in this legislation that passed both the House and the Senate. Including USDA. That means 9. So I'm not going to predict how January 30th is going to go because December is going to be very important. We're going to watch how many bills, individual bills, the appropriation committees in both the House and Senate can get done before January 30th. That's when the latest continuing resolution goes through, January 30th. 2 is that by mid-December, Senate Majority Leader John Thune promised the Democrats that he would bring up a vote on extending the COVID-related increases in Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. We're going to have to see how that goes and see what can happen. It'll be curious if the Republicans ever offer an alternative for health care reform. Trump wants to give actual those eligible for Obamacare payments that he wants to put a means test on, by the way, and he should, that he wants to give them a tax incentive or a check so they can go into the private insurance money. He wants to take all that money, Tommy, billions of dollars, going to insurance companies in the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. So we're going to see that how it plays out in December. So, but the bottom line, I don't think neither political party wants to have another shutdown come January 30th. We learned again, this time it was the Democrats. The Republicans learned it before that. You do not shut down the government to get what you want from a policy perspective. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And so the Democrats, I think, lost this battle, but other ones say, well, we're going to see in December. So that's where I say on that
ultimately,
most of the USDA offices are fully staffed now. They're coming back. They're coming back to work in physical offices at USDA South Building, and your FSA offices and NRDS should be fully staffed, and we're going to have that food stamp money totally out to those states by Monday, Secretary Rollins said the other day.
Very good. Okay. I didn't understand this pop-up. Trump tariff pivot. What's that mean?
Well, that's the pivot. That's why they're acknowledging that they're coming out with different agreements with Central and Latin America to remove some of those tariffs on those crops that we don't produce here, or for those farm products, I should say, that we don't produce here. That's a pivot.
Coffee, banana. We can't get in the coffee business. We can't get in the banana. Well, enough said. Okay.
Again, a common sense person would have known that. So you look at all those smart people they have in there. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who says he's got a soybean farm out in, I think,
North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Yeah.
Like, come on, have you ever farmed?
Handsome alert right there. Oh, he's got a lot of land. He's got a lot of land. And they asked him, why didn't you sell that farm ground? I thought you had to liquidate your assets. And you know what he said was? It was a beautiful quote. Oh, I liquidated my stock portfolio, but I didn't have time to liquidate my land before I became, nor should he. It's a great asset. The man
It is.
has every right to own land, and
Yes.
God bless him. I love him. Is he going to be our next Fed
Fed,
governor
no,
or
he
Fed?
won't. He doesn't want the
No,
Fed. It's
no,
down to about
Fed
4 or
chair.
5 people. One of the possibilities is the National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. The
Mhm.
other one, I think, who will be, I forget, Ken Warsh, Warsh. Look him up. I think he's going to be the next Fed chairman.
We'll talk about it next week, and we'll do a round
Absolutely.
robin of. We'll
Yeah,
see what the
we'll
betting
list the
markets
4
say.
potential. Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
our clients, our listeners, fans of Wiesemeyer, are Trump bucks still coming? What's going on?
They're still coming, but you saw, remember just a few weeks ago, USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins said, just as soon as the government opens up, we're going to announce the trade mitigation trade aid program. And so did Senator
Mhm.
John Hoeven from North Dakota. Well, I don't think it's coming out today. Now, why is that? Well, I think they wanted to look at the USDA report today. They have it now to see how
Mm.
it would affect prices, to see how they factored in those potential China sales. I think they were offset, as USDA said, by decreased soybean exports to other nations. And I think the White House played a role saying, well, wait a minute, maybe Trump wants to be part of that coming announcement. And so that means they have to have the right logistics in place. Or maybe Secretary Rollins wants to announce it as at a specific speech in a state where she wants to. So, but it's coming. We're going to have a trade aid program, but it's probably going to change as a result of the recent run up in prices for some commodities, corn and soybeans. But that doesn't mean farmers don't need it because of the
Mhm.
numbers. Let's connect dots, Tommy.
Mhm.
That ABA and Farmer Mac survey showed we need a bridge into 2026, and not just trade aid. Uh, House Ag Committee Chairman G.T. Thompson, Republican from Pennsylvania, says this trade aid is just a down payment. This is the first tranche. Additional farmer aid is going to come later this year in a must-pass spending bill. I don't know what level, but it'll be similar to the $10 billion that they inked for farm aid on December 21st last year. And it's needed
Mhm.
because of
Oh,
the
fertilizer,
debt
high fertilizer, I
and the debt repayment.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. Debt repayment, higher input cost,
Higher
etc.
health
So
insurance, higher life insurance, higher everything insurance. Trump bucks, we still think, are on the way. Mr. Wiesemeyer, we're at the end of the show. You are the star. This is your show. And of course, you get to finish it. But you better stay optimistic, my friend.
I'm still optimistic, and I will not call farmer and rancher aid a negative. To me, it's positive because why? Food is security. It's national security. It's needed. If you want to have a cheaper food policy, not cheap, a cheaper food policy, you pay
Affordable.
it one way or the other. At the supermarket, which we don't like those prices going up too high, or a combination of prices and taxpayer assistance, and that's what we're going to have. And I don't think any farmer should say, of course they want trade and not aid, but until we get there, we have to have that bridge assistance, and it's coming.
Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
See you next week.